going to be discussing an MVP candidate, like I said earlier, that no one seems to be talking about, and that's Minnesota Lynx star forward Napheesa Collier. And I know our co-host Dre is going to know quite a bit about this because he is a Minnesota resident. But let's go ahead and dive right into it, guys. So, like I said earlier, Napheesa Collier is MVP candidate that no one seems to be talking about for some reason. I believe it's because of the market that she's in. She's in Minnesota, which is, by the WNBA standard, a mid-tier market in comparison to that of Vegas and LA and New York. However, if you look at her most recent performance against the Las Vegas Aces, she went 11-15 from the field, 2 of 4 from the three-point line, 3 of 4 from the free throw line, had a career-high 18 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, and 27 points with a plus-minus of 23. And if we look at her numbers over the course of the season, Napheesa Collier is averaging a double-double of 21 points and 10 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals. And Minnesota is currently 22-8 on the year, and they have, if I'm not mistaken, one of you guys can correct me on this, the second best record, or if not the best record in the WNBA. And there's quite a bit of reasons why I believe that Napheesa Collier is not getting the publicity, not getting why her name's not in the MVP conversation. And there's many reasons that don't involve basketball, I will say that. And, certain narratives, agendas that the WNBA is looking to promote, or I would say mainstream society as a whole is trying to promote, that Napheesa does not particularly fit that quota, does not fit that sort of image for what mainstream society, mainstream media is trying to propagate. And I believe that's part of the reason why her name is not mentioned as often as it should be in the MVP conversation. But we'll leave it there. I don't want to digress. However, if we look at Napheesa's consistency and her level of play over the course of the season, it's no question in my mind that she's the front runner for the MVP candidate. And she's coming off a stellar performance in the Olympics. And like I said, in my opinion, she's been the most consistent player, the most consistent MVP candidate over the course of the season. She's had the biggest impact on her team's success. And I say that because Ajawilson, obviously, in my opinion, as well, is the best player in the WNBA. But because the level of talent that's surrounded by Ajawilson, in my opinion, it does take away from the impact that she could possibly have. Because, like we just stated earlier, if you double Ajawilson, you run the risk of, having another top 5 player in Jackie Young, another top 10 player in Kelsey Plum, another top 15 player in Chelsea Gray attack the one-on-one. And so most teams are hesitant to double Ajawilson. However, with Napheesa Collier, they're more likely, and you see a lot, she gets double teamed a lot, especially when she catches it in the mid-post, in the elbow extended area. However, she still finds ways to score and to create easy scoring opportunities for her teammates. And one example is as Caleb McBride. Listen, Caleb McBride has been one of the best shooters in the WNBA so far. If I'm not mistaken, she has the highest three-point percentage in the WNBA so far on the season, as well as Courtney Williams, a player that was not as big of an offensive threat last year when she was in Connecticut as she is now in Minnesota. And you can tell that Napheesa is making her teammates better with her level of play. For example, the other day when Minnesota played Vegas, Alana Smith went 6-9 from the field, 2-2 from the free throw line, had 15 points and a plus-minus of 18. And I know Alana Smith is a great player, but this is someone who's averaging under under 7 points a game. And Minnesota does have talent, especially coming off the bench, led by Natisha Heidemann and Diamond Miller and Dorka Juhas and Heinz Allen. So there's quite a bit of talent on Minnesota's team. However, no one would say that talent is comparable on paper to what Las Vegas has. And so it's no question, no doubt about it in my mind that Nafisa Collier is the leading front runner for the leading MVP candidate, and she should win the MVP this year, especially if she continues this level of play. And as our co-host Dre said, Collier is killing it too. I just think her and Stewie's great season make it overshot. Dre, I agree with that. This is something that Dre has talked about a lot on our podcast. With certain narratives that tend to be followed. Dre has talked about, Ajawilson has fit that narrative, and there's a narrative that the WNBA is trying to propagate with Ajawilson being the face of the league, and rightfully so, I will say, because she is. Me and Dre talked about this before, that I do believe that Ajawilson is the best player in the WNBA, and Dre brought up Breonna Stewart, who is another player that's having a stellar season that no one's talking about. However, I do believe that Breonna Stewart there's not as much, I'll say grace with Breonna Stewart's season being overlooked, because there's quite a bit of people that believed that Ajawilson should have won MVP last year instead of Breonna Stewart. So I believe that dynamic is thrown in there quite a bit, similar to how last year in the NBA, when Joel Embiid won his MVP, people thought that Embiid should have won it the year before instead of Jokic, and so when Embiid won it the year he did, it was a sort of a makeup for him not winning it the year before. So there's perhaps that bit of dynamic going on here in WNBA as well. But Nafisa Collier is a MVP candidate no one's talking about. I mean, and not to get too off on a tangent, but it's just interesting to me that the lack of insight that some of these pundits have, because some people are saying that Caitlin Clark should be the MVP, or should be a candidate for MVP, and when I hear people say stuff like that, that just automatically tells me that it's either clickbait or that they're not actually watching these games, because Caitlin Clark is having a stellar season, and she'll likely, in all likelihood, win Rookie of the Year, obviously between her and Angel Reese. However, you can't legitimately tell me that after watching Ajawilson play, Breonna Stewart play, and Nafisa Collier play over the course of the season, that Caitlin Clark is having a better season than any of those players. So, when I hear people say stuff like that, it just tells me that they're not watching the game, and like I said, it's just clickbait. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on this topic right here. But with that being said, guys, that is it for our show for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back with another basketball live show on Wednesday, and be sure to stay tuned for our college football live shows that start to begin this week, and be sure to stay tuned for our Instagram live show as well, every Thursday at 9 p.m. to hear Dre and I discuss the many topics revolving around the world of sports. So with that being said, guys, we'll be back again. Till then, continue to stay safe, be vigilant, make smart decisions, and peace.